Death is the one story every life shares, but the conversations around it rarely happen. Welcome to the show that opens the doors to the funeral profession. The people, the stories, and the truths most never hear. This is As the Hearse Turns. Death is the one story every life shares, but the conversations around it rarely happen. Welcome to the show that opens the doors to the funeral profession. The people, the stories, and the truths most never hear. This is As the Hearse Turns.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, we got a double loop on that. I have no idea what's going on. We pushed a button.
We were glitching.
It gave a couple extra minutes for folks to jump on and get everything moved around here.
Yeah.
So I can't place it, but something looks different.
So something is different. And for about the last year, every time I go to the hairdresser, I tell her, I think I want to cut my hair short. And so I finally caved, but I have something for you because you told me a couple weeks ago, in fact, I have the text somewhere. You said that you wanted a blonde wig so that you could get one of your videos to go viral. So I saved my hair extensions for you if you want them.
Yeah, I am so mad right now, and I'm going to tell you why. I ordered from Amazon a blonde mullet, and while the intro was playing, I was going to throw it on, but it didn't arrive. I'm so mad right now.
Gosh, that's too funny. Yeah. This is my secret, guys, to long hair extensions, and I've worn them for 6 years, and I'm ready to be done with them.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. And it's challenging because there are a lot of maintenance. I'm not going to get into the whole shebang, but with the new funeral home opening and everything, I want to be present there every single morning at a certain time. And with Nate and I and coordinating going to the gym and hair washing day, it just interferes. So yeah.
Hair washing day.
You just said hair washing.
Hey, look, I'm working on my pronunciation, Mr. Nate. Every time it's the washing machine, not the washing machine.
So if you need your blonde wig, I have one to hold you over. Okay.
Maybe next month we'll have some surprises.
Yeah.
Oh man, but no. So I'm excited about tonight. So we have with us this evening Mr. Brelan Holston. From Connors, Georgia. He is the youngest child. His father owns a funeral home, Bernard's Family Funeral Care, and his mother also owns a funeral home in Atlanta, Georgia, Donald Trimble Mortuary. And the other really cool thing about Brelan is he is a recent graduate of my alma mater, John A. Gupton College in Nashville. So let's go ahead and bring Brelan on. Hey, man.
Hey, nice to be on here. Good to see everybody.
Good to see you too. Sorry, Max just snuck here into the office. He wants to say hi. Let him. Sorry about that. He snuck into the office while Nate was in the kitchen. So, Brelan, you and I met out at the NFDA conference and just kind of connected at the Disrupt booth. And is your brother a licensed funeral director as well?
Not yet. He's an apprentice, but he's passed his board. So he's just waiting to take the states once he finishes his apprenticeship.
Great. So is he kind of under your wing right now?
I would like to say so, but he doesn't think so. Because he's my older brother. I'm the youngest, like Chris said. So yeah, I just end up getting mine before him. So there's a little bit of bragging rights, but yeah.
Okay. I thought you were the oldest.
No, I'm the youngest. Okay.
All right.
Now, did your brother go to John A. Gupton?
No. So.
All right. Okay. We can skip it.
No, as you know, we had to go through so much just to, we had to do like 6 references, I think. And he did like 2 of them. He was like, no, I'm not going to do all this. So by the time he finished that application for John A. Gupton, he already had got accepted to Cincinnati College of Mortuary Science. So It worked out for him, though. Yeah, it worked out for him because he graduated the same time I did in the fall. and he was the president of his class, so he did well. Really well for
Right.
himself.
And what was it? And I know like Johnny Gupton, like I had to sit for the ACTs for
Really?
yeah, you needed a minimum score from the ACTs unless that's changed.
You probably did. I can't even remember my school when I took the ACT.
Yeah. But I'm excited about tonight. I think it's going to be fun. I think let's just let's just dive into it because I think it's going to be
Yeah.
a long,
Let's do it.
long. So, Brelan, let's start at the beginning. So, where did you grow up, and what kind of what kind of environment shaped you to become a funeral director?
Well, I'm actually coming from a background of two funeral directors, my mother and my father, who have been in the business since they were teenagers. So
Okay.
my father started when he was 12 years old, wanted to get out the house in Athens, Georgia. And then my mother actually helped my uncle Donald, my great uncle Donald, open up his funeral home in Decatur, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. In 1983, she was just a 17-year-old in high school, and he sent her to mortuary school shortly after. And I'm sure you all familiar with Gupton Jones. That's where she went.
Mm-hmm.
For me, being around them, they actually did not force funeral service on me. Like, people would think like I never worked funeral service. I think I worked one service, and it's because we didn't have a big staff in Benares at the time. I think my father had like maybe 2 people on staff when he first started. And I think I was like 11, like it was like 2010 or something like that. He let me work one service. And after that, I think I basically retired until like 2022. I didn't work another service until I was in college.
Okay.
Like I said,
And now, what was funeral service ever on your radar as a child? Did you like say, I want to be like dad, I want to be like mom, or something like that, or was it just you just fell in love with it on your own?
Well, I fell in love with it on my own, but I knew I was going to always be a part of my mother's firm, Donald Triple Mortuary. I didn't know exactly in what capacity. I thought I was just going to just own it, and not really be as involved as I am now with both funeral homes. Mainly because, like every athlete, I grew up playing sports. So I thought I was going to go professionally in something. I played football, played basketball, ran track in high school, and all stayed in track and basketball. So I thought I was going to go to the league like everybody else did. But, when the ball stopped bouncing, I knew I had a passion for funeral service already. And that was kind of really stemming from seeing people pass away in my life, my grandfather, and then going and working a arrangement conference. And my father just really just left me in there with the family. And I mean, since then, that family has, I still keep in contact with that family. And since then, it's just been off from there. Like that was really my passion. Once that family kind of said, like, Brelan, you really helped me through this process. And I knew nothing really about funeral service. That's when I was like, okay, this is the path for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So growing up in the funeral business with your parents, obviously, you spent time at the funeral homes. Were you exposed to, because I get this question, people
Yes.
want to know how much our children are exposed to. What were you exposed to? Were you allowed in and out of the prep room? Were you allowed to watch your parents do makeup? What did you see?
That's a good question. So my father was a trade embalmer from when I was probably from when I was born until he opened up in 2006 when I was turned 6. So I remember him opening up the funeral home here in Edenton, Georgia. But the only time I was really there is if he had too many services. I mean, if he didn't have anybody to watch me really, and he had too many services or whatever, I would go up there and just chill out with him. Or when he was trade embalming, I would just go with him to where he was going to be doing his trade embalming at, all around Atlanta or not South Georgia, but Middle Georgia. He would go and he'll say he'd be making donuts. He never told me he was a trade embalmer, so I really didn't know. So like I remember really seeing a dead body, and I remember I was like, "Pops, is that a dead body?" He was like, "No, I make donuts. Like I'm not a funeral director. I'm not an embalmer, whatnot." But with my mother, she kept us upstairs, so they have it's like 2-story building at my mother's firm, Donald Trumbull Mortuary. And my brother and I would just be running upstairs. We knew nothing about funeral service. But every time I knew my father came up there or my mother came up there, we were in trouble. And that happened a lot. We were always running around. So that's really, I mean, they had us around the funeral home, but we really were like just naive or just what was going on in the funeral home. We were just there, just being kids. And I guess around like 17 or 18 was the first time I actually was in the prep room. And that really touched me because it was somebody my age. It was actually a 17-year-old, and he had drowned here in Edenton, Georgia. So that was my first time ever, being in a embalming room and seeing that.
Sure.
And so that really hit me. And that was the same year I lost my grandfather.
Okay.
So that was a big,
Okay.
Now, were you involved with that service, with that 17-year-old?
I was not.
Okay.
So I was playing basketball, football, track. I was like, tracks in the spring, football is in the fall, then in the winter is basketball. So I was never really around. I just happened to be with my father that day. I couldn't drive until I was 17, so I just happened to be carpooling with him. And he was like, "Hey, I want to show you something," and that was the first time I saw a decedent. Like I actually can remember okay, this guy's my age. Like I knew who that person was and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impactful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just something like that leaving an impression on you and things. So that's deep.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's deep. Yeah, it's deep. And that was like I said, that was my first time. They really kept us away. Like my brother was in band. He played little basketball too. He played basketball too growing up. But I was kind of the sports guy. He was on the musical side, singing, band, and all that. And then as we got older and later in our teens and into college, that's when we came into the funeral service.
So was there what was the magic moment that kind of just it clicked, the light bulb went off or a spark ignited that said, yep, I'm going to be a funeral director?
Honestly, I want to say it was with my father. He was mentoring this one guy down here, and he's a manager of an SEI firm now. His name is Lamont Nixon, and he came down here to Madison and worked with my father. And just the way the people loved him in the community, as if he was the president of the United States. And they still talk about him now, even with me here, kind of taking his his role. And that kind of just, I was like, yeah, I want to be a funeral director, because he was young, like I am now. He was young. He was very active in the community, and he always went above and beyond for the families. And that's the kind of something I do as well. I try to do something that they're not expecting, whether it's, it could be anything regarding the service. I try to do something that they're not expecting. And I was like, when he got that kind of notoriety and just, a lot of people just, they respected him and things of that nature. Everybody always talks about him in the community. I was like, yeah, I want to be a funeral director. That's something I would like to do.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah. And then I would say also my father, being that he was a trade embalmer for years, he's actually known as one of the better embalmers in the state of Georgia. He's any big funeral home, he's probably embalmed for them at, one point in time. And so that's something I would like to take away from my father, is just him and his skills in the prep room. And that's what, the tissue building, dressing, and things of that nature.
You have great mentors.
I know. Yes.
Amazing.
Yep. My mother and father and Mr. Lamont. He was at the convention, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, he was at the convention. He actually, and I appreciate him, he was the one who convinced my father to get Disrupt. Yeah, I couldn't do it. But he was like, this would be good. Brelan's doing his videos now, but they're gonna take off if he has someone to kind of help him post. Because I just post at whatever time now.
Awesome. Well, you're putting out great stuff, and I would encourage anyone who's watching this tonight to follow your funeral homes, and we'll put that link out to the funeral homes after the show.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
We should have brought tacos.
You know what? I started to bring a taco because I did not do my Taco Tuesday video today. I had like 3 arrangements, but yeah, no, that's something that I actually
Missed
started.
opportunity.
Yeah, I know, right? And I know a lot of people like wonder why I started that. And it's kind of related to basketball, like because I don't know, LeBron James used to do like a Taco Tuesday video. I think it was during COVID. He did a Taco Tuesday video where he just was like, it's Taco Tuesday. So I just used that in a video one time on TikTok. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna relate it to like term. It started off with just me talking about term insurance. And then I was like, why don't I just relate the funeral home to the funeral home? So that's what I did. So yeah, just
Now, are you also insurance producer too?
yes, and I'll tell that story
Awesome.
very quickly. So when I was at Fort Valley State, so I went to HBC, or historically black college and university in Fort Valley, Georgia, which is in middle Georgia. Went there to go play basketball on a basketball scholarship and everything. And when I was there, they had lost a lot of their professors in the media program, and I was a media studies major. I was actually studying to be a broadcaster there. So when I was there, they just didn't have enough professors, so they were like, you got to take some business courses. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the easiest courses. I went to the marketing classes, which I mean I do that now, the marketing classes, and a lot of the people, like maybe 50% of the class, were life insurance agents and door knock, like even like after class they would go door knocking and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do what they're doing. Like they were making money on the side. I was like, yeah, because that was before NIL. I went right before they started the NIL deals and all that stuff, the endorsements for college athletes and stuff. So I was like, I gotta make some money. So I did anything on campus, and then I started doing the life insurance. As soon as I graduated in 23, I did life insurance, and I mean I've been doing it ever since. I do that advanced funeral planning, like pre-need.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And how old are you?
25. I just turned 25.
Man, you're gonna set the world on fire. People in Georgia need to watch out, man.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing. I'm
I'm
trying
telling
to.
you. I mean, you can just hear the passion in your voice, and that's amazing. If we could get other generations to come out of mortuary school with that passion and that fire and that desire, I think our profession is going to be great for the next 60, 70, 80 years. But unfortunately, I mean, and Catherine can speak to it, when you interview people don't want to work, or they don't want to have a drive or a passion. So to hear, someone just coming out of school, but you've hustled all the way up to mortuary school, and you're continuing to hustle out of mortuary school. So that speaks volumes.
Most definitely appreciate that. Yeah. And we have the same problem too. Like a lot of people, they say they want to work, but then when you get that call at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., it's like, call somebody else, or they're gonna put it. It's gonna be on do not disturb.
Yep.
So yeah, but I'm always be happy because I really want to be the first one to see the family. That's been my thing. I've always want to be the first one to see the family. I'll go on the removal. I'll be the one to do the arrangements, whatever. I want to be the first one to see the family, be there for them. So, and it's really helped. Doing the life insurance has really helped me with aftercare. Like it's just easy because now I have to follow up. It feels like to me I love to follow up because I was like, hey, let's take care of this. So tomorrow we won't have to pay out of pocket for the service and things of that nature. So it's just helped me a lot tremendously with my aftercare, just get my life insurance license.
I guess I got to jump on board. I got to get my license.
Come on. I actually told Caitlin she needs to jump on too. Like I'm telling you, I think it's great because they trust us. They know we'll lead them in the right direction, but they see it when we do the arrangement conferences and things of that nature. They see what the breakdown of everything and what they need to at least pre-need something, pre-need a casket, pre-need the service fee. You pre-need something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think another thing that builds value and builds trust with the actual funeral director that you're 9 out of 10 times it's going to be you, your father, or your brother that's caring for that individual at the time of need. So already having that relationship and that rapport built is
Yeah.
is priceless. You know,
Mm,
so I definitely see the value in that for sure.
most definitely.
Caitlin's in the thread. She's telling me that I need to go to a class on April 20th. Caitlin, hopefully we will be moving on April 20th. I don't know. We have two other directors at
Okay,
our firm that take care of the pre-need, and of course Chris takes care of the pre-need. But
Yeah,
I admit I'm open. I took my exam and I failed miserably.
Did you sit for the insurance license?
What?
Did you sit for the insurance license?
I did.
Really? I
I'm
mean,
not
it's a lot,
against
and because
it. I'm not.
none of what's on that exam we use in writing pre-need.
Exactly.
Sounds like the boards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not ashamed to tell, like, for the life insurance, I took it twice, but I did the life, and what really got me is I did the life and health at the same time, and I don't even use my health license.
Oh,
But
I only yeah, my line of authority is just for life. I was
well,
like, nope, I don't got to sit for health. I'm not taking it.
so that's the thing. My father, he did life insurance since 1985. As long as, just as much as he does, funeral service, he does, pre-need life insurance and things of that nature. So when he told me to get my license for life insurance, he was like, you got to get life and health at the same time. You might as well. So I did that, messed around, did that, and I failed it by 3 points the first time. I was like, okay, I'm not failing this again. I'm not failing this again. I'm not paying again for this. So I like
And
going.
they're not cheap exams to pay for.
They're not. Oh my goodness, they're not.
So Jen says, hello from Harrisburg. It's a small world. I just graduated with Brelan's brother, Brennan, in December from CCMS.
Yes.
It is a small
Yes,
world.
Brenda. Yeah, my brother was just telling me about her, about that she would be joining. So good to see you.
Awesome.
All right. So, let's see. So, Brelan, where did you let's talk about school, mortuary school. What were your
Okay.
overall thoughts for, somebody that might be planning on going to mortuary school? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think John A. Gupton's the best. Honestly, I say John A.
Absolutely.
Gupton. I say John A. Gupton really prepared me for the boards, and that's why I went there. Me and my everybody else in my family went somewhere else. We all went to different schools and got different different things that we learned at our respective schools. But when I went to John A. Gupton, I really learned a lot about just the professionalism. We had to come in a suit every day when we went on campus for the last part. I actually took advantage. I did my clinicals at home, but I went to school and I redid them because I wanted to get more embalming, preparation work. So I did that. I took advantage of that. So we were able to basically not be on our own, but like for someone like me that I like to go and get it, John A. Gupton was the best for me because I could go and do the work and everything early and then kind of chill out. And I could do whatever I, kind of wanted to in a sense when I went down there. And what prepared me for the comps and the boards was really just everything before. The classes were super hard. I mean, I went to undergraduate school, my 4-year degree, and I had a 3.9 GPA. 3.95 GPA. I think I had 2 Bs my whole time at Fort Valley. I went to John A. Gupton, and it was just like, I think the first semester I got my first B, but it was like a low B. I was like, okay, yeah, this is difficult. And then, yeah,
If you can if you can pass Miss Donna's comprehensive review class,
yes.
you will pass the national board exam.
And I tell everybody that. If you can pass those comps, I mean, those were difficult. Those were really difficult.
But one thing that I, again, going back to dress code, I remember because I did everything online. I only went down
too.
for okay.
Me too.
But whenever we were online if we were recording a video, or if we had to have any face-to-face interaction with our professors or any of our faculty, you had to be in a suit and tie. You had to be in dress code 100% of the time. Whenever you set for your exam, it was a proctored test where like somebody would watch you take the test on your browser. You had to be in a suit and tie. Now, hopefully they don't kick me out or expel me, but a lot of times it would be like jacket, shirt, tie, and pajama pants or shorts underneath. But you had to be in dress code. Absolutely.
I think we all did that once or twice.
Mhm.
But I want to say this year she started, Professor Tracy, Dr. Tracy, she actually started making us stand up like with our computer and like move the camera around. So I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta wear shoes and slacks. But she started that the second semester. So before that, I was doing the same thing. I was wearing like shorts.
We couldn't even have facial hair in school.
No, we couldn't either. We couldn't have facial hair.
You could have a mustache. But it couldn't come past the weather lines, but no facial hair, no beard whatsoever.
Yep.
If you showed up and you weren't shaved, they would send you home for the day.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's Southern funeral directing. If you show up and you're at one point, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
What about natural hair color and facial piercings?
You can have piercings.
Okay.
I know
you could have
what?
You couldn't have
Thought I lost you there for a minute.
I did. I lost them.
Yeah, there we are. We're back.
Could you have like purple or pink hair, or did it have to be natural?
Had to be natural colored.
Yeah.
The dress code was very, very strict.
Yeah, it was like neutral colors with the suits too, and like a neutral tie, like a regular tie, neutral tie.
And this might ruffle some feathers. That's how it should be.
Well, and
I think that's how it should be.
I mean, tattoos couldn't be exposed. So I'll never forget when I submitted one of my marketing videos. So we had to take a marketing class with now Dr. Allen. And she sent back and there was points deducted because I was explaining I talk with my hands a lot, and my shirt came up and my tattoo was exposed.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just, she's like, you've always got to be cognizant of how you're presenting yourself in front of someone. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff, and now they can get away with a lot of that because it is a private college.
Yeah.
A community college might have a lot of issues with that. I do not know where bubbles are coming from on my screen. Did you see a thumbs up bubble somewhere?
I did.
I was going to say, I've never seen that before, and I want to make sure I'm not the only one seeing it.
Someone's agreeing. You're getting a thumbs up. Yeah, I think even at our funeral home down at Wagner, Alfner, and Harkins, and at Wagner, Alfner, and Berg, we're pretty strict about those things. Now, facial hair, Chad has a beard. Dakota often has facial hair. Tattoos, just things that we're just a little particular about. But hey, if a family's not around and you're back in the prep room, or we're running around cleaning up the funeral home and we're not expecting anyone, and you want to wear a short sleeve shirt and you have tattoos, by all means, show off your tattoos. But when you're in an arrangement with a family, I think it can be very distracting.
Most definitely.
So I'm old school, but I'm not ashamed to say that.
Well, I don't think it's old school at all. I think it boils down to if you don't take pride in yourself, how are you going to take pride in caring for someone else?
Exactly.
Yeah, if you're sloppy and presenting yourself like a sloppy mess, then what might my loved one look like?
Right.
And I think that's stuff that's inherently passed on. So.
And going back to what you said about the testing, I think that has to do with your integrity. Just being able for the family to trust you that you're not cheating. You can't cheat the family. You don't want to, you don't want them to feel like you're upselling them or things of that nature. So just having integrity with the family, being someone that they can trust. I think that's kind of what John A. Gupton also taught us as well. And I think someone in the comments had asked, I think his name was Mr. Larry. He had asked where John A. Gupton College is. It's in Nashville, Tennessee.
Mhm. Not to
On
be
Church
confused with
Street.
Upton Jones.
Yeah, my mother went to Gupton Jones. They used to call it Guts and Bones.
Oh.
Yep. 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 Yep.
So what do you think? What do you think people think mortuary school is versus what in reality it is?
I think they probably think it's like weird, like we probably just embalm bodies the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
or just deal with dead bodies the whole time. I think that's probably what they like. Yeah, you deal with dead bodies all the time. Like, no, we learn the business side of things first, because the first thing you have to learn is the business side. One, I feel like it's important for someone like me, of course, because my parents are, are owners, but also, if you want to be an employee of a funeral home, you want to know how it works. You know how things are, how you're going to be paid, how to not be in a situation where your funeral home could get fined and things of that nature. Because just as much as it is on the owner, it's on you too. If he gets fined, you get fined. I think of it like, me playing sports growing up, right? If the coach loses, we lose too, or vice versa. So I think it's just like that.
I totally agree. I think that, a lot of people have a misconception about, Ryan must be late to the party. Taco
Tuesday. Yeah.
But I think a lot of people have the misconception that all it is teaching us how to embalm. But there's a lot more to it. We were talking about it. Accounting.
Oh my goodness.
There's
Yeah.
accounting classes. There are, psychological grief counseling.
Yes.
Marketing. Tons of different things that we have to be taught to be able to practically serve and effectively serve the communities that we're in. So it's not just us showing up, embalming someone, and going home. There's much more to it. I think I did everything in 18 months from start to finish, but I was taking 12 to 16 credits a semester. So it's a 2-year degree. It's an associate's degree. And I don't think people understand that either. I think a lot of people don't realize the schooling and education that's required to even be able to sit for the national board exams.
And it's they don't understand those 2 years is really a crash course. Like, it's a lot of information you have to learn in a short period of time. So, I mean, I commend everybody that, goes to school and, goes and takes their boards right after. I mean, we had to at John A. Gupton. You had to redo comps, but I commend people because it really is a lot of information. It's a lot of information you have to learn.
It is a lot. I mean, so Catherine, when you went to PIMS, what was like the comprehensive review, or you're like the final class before they would release you to set for the national board? What was that like?
Honestly, I don't really remember. I know that, so my schooling was 2 years. I did everything online. Of course, I had to find a funeral home where I needed to do my embalmings. And only when I started doing that is when things really started to click, because I'm a hands-on learner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started working in a funeral home. And from that moment on, I always just had this mentality that if you're in school, it should be a requirement that you are working in a funeral home.
I wholeheartedly agree.
It only makes sense. And so I had finished up my embalmings, and then I think I was able to sit for my comps. And we did have a review course for the comps, and my class was the first class to take the comps at home, because that was in the middle of COVID.
Oh, okay.
It was in the middle of COVID. And then I took my comps once and I failed, took them again, passed, and then did my 1-year internship. with the funeral home. And then after that, I was able to sit for my national boards, which I didn't take right away. I think I probably waited about 3 or 4 months, which was a mistake. I should have taken them right away because I probably wouldn't have failed. But failed. I'm pretty sure I failed my sciences twice and passed on the third try. I know I failed arts once, passed on the second try. And then I took my states, failed both of those once, passed on the second try. I'm not a test taker, but I also think that there's, I think you guys will agree with me. There's probably a lot of like really great funeral directors out there that just
Yes.
don't do well with testing. And then there's funeral directors out there that passed on the first try and they don't know how to embalm. They
That
don't go out on
is
transfers. They don't do anything.
Or some are not even in the business anymore. So
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And I think that's one of the things too for that out of John A. Gupton. As soon as you pass comprehensive review, you have 30 days to sit for the national board exam, both sections.
yes.
If you do not sit within that 30-day window, you fail the class and you have to then pay and retake the class.
Retake comps. Yeah.
And
Wow.
comps was only offered once a year when I was enrolled in school. They only had, because only one teacher taught it and she was it, and she only taught it once a year. So if you failed or didn't pass or you had to retake it, you had to wait until the next fall to be able to sit to take that and then possibly be able to take your national board exam.
I know she has it twice a year, so they're doing it actually today. They started today, the comps.
Okay.
But yeah, I took for Georgia. I had to take my comps right like the next week when I got back from Nashville because there was no openings in that 30-day window, so I had to take it then. Yeah, I took it on the 19th. I took my arts on the 19th, and then 21st or something like that. I took the sciences.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you. So now we all have set for it, and we all have signed a non-disclosure. So I can't ask you questions or anything like that. And not to mention, I actually do some of the writing for the national board exam. I've set for the writing class and things like that. Is that the little boss man?
No, it's Nate.
Oh, so it's a big boss man.
Yes.
It's a big boss fan. But yeah, so I personally feel that the national board exam is not a true gauge to someone I don't believe that the national board dictates whether someone's going to be a good funeral director or not.
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
It's a lot of people will say there are trick questions, which I can attest that there are not. And that if the question is on the exam, you have somewhere in your curriculum seen where this question will come from, because we have strict guidelines on where we can pull questions from and how we can word questions. But it's only supposed to be an entry. It's to gauge that you can successfully enter into funeral service at an entry level. That's all it is. My biggest gripe about it is if you've passed it, you should be able to practice in any state because it's a national exam. Yeah. That's my biggest problem with the board itself right now, and the money situation. I do like that now you don't have to wait a certain amount of time to retest. If you did fail, you could retest again the next available spot. They've changed that, but I still think there's a lot of room for improvement with how they do that stuff.
Yeah, I was sitting there just happy I passed. I was just happy I passed. I was like, oh my goodness.
Getting that printout, that piece of paper, and it says that you passed. It's the best feeling in the world.
Yes, I was jumping. I went to the restroom and I jumped up and down. I was like, yes. No more. I'm not doing any more school. I'm not going to do any more school. I might do some CEUs. I'm not doing any more school.
Come on, it's going to be the Dr. Brelan Holston soon.
I told my parents if I get a doctorate, it's going to be an honorary doctorate. I'm not going to school. You can count that out. I'm gonna be Dr. Funeral Director.
Okay.
So
You have all the time in the world. You're 25 years old, and I
Don't
wish I
rush.
would have done this all when I was your age. So it's pretty amazing what you're doing, and just keep doing it.
most definitely.
So I had a couple other questions, but I think we've talked about your parents and being supportive and things like that, and how you've gotten to where you are. So I think we're gonna move into a touchy subject here. And when we spoke on the phone, I told you a little bit. I wanted to really discuss this a bit, and it's very sensitive. But I want to talk about the fact that it doesn't get enough attention, and that there is still segregation in funeral service. And I can't I guess I can see why, because and I know Catherine has some questions she wants to ask in regards to it, but there's different ways that the funeral service is conducted, whether it be from a Caucasian firm or whether it be from an African American firm. And like when we talked on the phone a couple weeks ago, for us, it's constantly a sad, um, boohoo type of affair. But for minority firms, and it is a party. It is a true celebration of life. It's a true homegoing. And I don't know where the breakdown comes from in that. And is that the reason why an African American family may not call me or Catherine to perform services for them?
See, yeah, definitely. I would definitely say the minority services are definitely a celebration of life. Like it's on the program. That's the most important thing. That program, they will fight you over those programs. People will fight you over those programs. Those are the biggest thing in our funeral homes. And as far as when you talk about um, calling, majority type funeral homes versus minority, it just comes down to relationships and them trusting someone to do hair. And I think we were going to talk about this before we talked about
Absolutely.
John A. Gupton. We really didn't learn how to do African American hair. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
or like makeup on African Americans. So just things like that. They know when they go to an African American firm, they're trusting that their loved one's going to look like themselves. And another thing in the minority culture is you really don't want to, in a way, embarrass. You'd be embarrassed when you go into that funeral home and it doesn't look like your loved one. That's the biggest thing that a lot of people, care about. They want to make sure their loved one looks lifelike and they look like themselves. And I like to say that's the benchmark of everything for us. It's just our preparation work. So we do. I think our funeral home is known for doing the best around here. Bernard's my father at just the preparation work, and I think that's why it's really relationship based. I would say that's the thing, the main thing.
I want to branch off here for a minute.
Yeah.
One question that I get on Facebook a lot whenever we talk about embalming chemicals and embalming solution and just embalming individuals, the question I get is, when you have a person of color in your care, what do you do differently? I know what my answer is, but I want to ask you, what products are you using? Are you using Frigid, Champion, Dodge? Do you use dye? I mean, I know what my answer is. I want to hear what you guys do.
You want to know the truth? We embalm just the same.
Yeah,
like we really do. We do frigid. We use frigid fluid. We use Champion. We also use we branch off and use African American owned fluids like Arlington.
okay.
A thing called Proto Bomb. So we use different ones. I used to call Proto Bomb barbecue sauce because you never know what you're gonna get. You got some cases where it just works awesome, drains well, great arterial fluid, and then there's sometimes where it just doesn't work.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
but we we conducted just the same. We use dye. Now I know a lot of people use for African Americans. They use like I think it's color zone or something, dye color zone, something. It's like a darker tint to that dye
Okay.
that Pierce has. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we actually just use regular frigid fluid rose color tone
Yes, that's what
dye.
we use.
Yeah, we use that. We use that dye, and then I think Dodge has a Champion. We use Champion's dye too as well.
Okay. I think sometimes people don't believe me when I say that, but truly,
Yeah.
we don't do anything different than what you guys do.
Yeah, we don't do
Yep.
anything different.
Yep.
Yeah, because
and
I
we
mean,
do this.
there's no difference in the outcome of the embalming based on the pigment of an individual's skin.
Yep.
You know, you're still looking for good distribution. You're still looking for fixation and things like that. But I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to, because I know, and when I took restorative arts, again, I didn't go. Catherine went to PIMS. There was very little in any type of care for ethnic hair or braiding or anything like that. Because I know if someone has like locks, if you're not careful taking them out, you could actually remove all the hair.
Yes.
And then I would not want to have to make that phone call to the family. And I think those are points that, again, needs to go back to the American Funeral Service Education Board. And these are things that need to be added in to the curriculum to be able to have a good segment of study on. Because, if you are the only funeral home in town and, a family comes to you, what are you going to tell them? You don't know, you don't know how to care for their loved one.
Yeah.
So again, we still have a lot of room to grow in funeral service education. 100%.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
We had an interesting call. I know maybe it was towards the end of last year, and it was a call at the funeral home, and we were contacted to pick up the individual, transfer them from the residence to our funeral home, of course, do the prep work and the embalming, and then they were going to be transferred to a firm in Maryland. And this was an African American family, so nice, and got the individual back to the funeral home, prepped, did this and that. We contacted the Maryland funeral home multiple times. No one ever called us back. And the family finally said, well, we're just going to go with your funeral home. And Chad, our other funeral director, ended up working with the family, and they had a service on a Saturday. And he worked the service. And Monday I came in, I said, how was it? And he goes, it was like a party here. I mean, a true celebration, singing, it was just honoring this person. And he said, I've never seen anything like it before. It was amazing to witness. And so it was just obviously different than the typical funeral that we do at our funeral home.
Yep.
It's usually doom and gloom.
Yep. And that's why, I love about, our services. There is, and we've serviced, Caucasian families as well. And we treat them just the same,
Absolutely.
It's going to be a celebration of life regardless. So there's funeral homes around here. I don't know if have you all watched Imitation of Life or anything like that?
No.
It's a great movie. It's an older movie, but it was about a lady who kind of pre-needed her whole service, and she had the horse and carriage, she had the band playing, and there's funeral homes around here that do the saxophone playing. We've done that on some funeral home, some funerals, and some want the high stepping and the top hat. Some families want that kind of stuff. And you know what I'm saying? You just want to give
I have questions.
Oh, you have questions. Yeah. It's a celebration of life. And at the end of the day, you want the family to be smiling. I always tell, when we do our videos, it's not much crying after that first viewing. After that first viewing, it's going to be smiling. And we love to hear the families come back and say, hey, I have nothing to cry about. I mean, this is a true
Wow.
celebration. It's fitting. And we get that a lot. We get that a lot. I can't even cry. I can't even cry. This has been truly amazing. And that's what keeps me going. I mean, that keeps me going every day because I know when they come to our funeral home, that's what they're going to get. And I'm going to make sure that they get it.
That's awesome. So I have one last question here on my side, and then I know we have some fun questions to jump into that Catherine
Yes.
has.
Yes.
So I just want to ask you, do you think the funeral profession has done enough to acknowledge um, the African American history in the profession?
I do not think so. Not from a school perspective.
Okay.
I feel like we have our own different conferences and we have different organizations where we've talked about the history of
Yeah,
funeral homes
National
and
Funeral Directors, NFDMA.
yeah, and NFDMA.
Yeah.
And then also we have in our districts we talk about the history there. Like Atlanta has rich history of funeral service, and I kind of learned it from my parents, and my parents learned from my uncle and things of that nature. But as far as it as a whole, like a curriculum, we don't. I think we don't do enough of that, of just talking about funeral service from the African American
Okay.
perspective, and that also is why people have a funeral with African Americans or just anybody of a ethnic race or different ethnicity, and they're just surprised on how the services goes because they don't have no knowledge of being at
We've
those
never
kind of
seen it before.
services. You've never seen it before, but for us that might be something that's typical.
So Dan says, if there isn't a New Orleans second line and a first-rate repass at my funeral, I'm getting up and leaving.
I love Dan. He's great.
Yeah.
So,
And that's a part of it too. We're gonna have a repass too. We're gonna have a repass. A lot of service that we do repasses.
So do you find that your funeral home is still primarily traditional burial, or are you having viewings followed by cremation, or are you seeing cremation numbers trickle up? What are you seeing?
So when I first came on board full time in 2023, from my undergraduate school, we were probably 85% burial, or we were embalming, and 15% cremation. It's probably like risen this year to about, I'll say about 35% cremation, but we're still doing 65-70% burial. And I think a lot of that is like, I feel like it's all gonna cycle around. I feel like life is just gonna cycle around, but for now cremation is inexpensive in comparison to doing a full traditional service. Now we've still done, like I said, we've done more traditional services this year, but we've done a lot more service cremations. I think last week was the first time we actually had multiple just direct cremation memorial services. That was the first time we really had that this year. I mean, I think we've had 2 or 3 this year, and most of them have been traditional burials or service cremations where they wanted to see their loved one, but they knew that their loved one wanted to be cremated. And so I just, typically an arrangement comes and say, hey, would you like to see your loved one? And a lot of them still want to see their loved one. They want to still get that lasting memory picture of their loved one before they're cremated. They want everybody to see, how they look. And so we try to, offer that to them while still honoring that loved one's wishes of being cremated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I would definitely say it's on the rise. Like cremation is on the rise with us as well as with minority funeral homes as well. But a lot of people still want to be buried next to their loved ones. That's very important. We're buried next to mom and buried next to dad, my significant other. Like that's very important.
Sure. And again, it's important to know that Absolutely. Funerals are expensive for, whether it's a
It's
cremation service or a traditional burial service, but you can make payments towards your funeral, just like you make your mortgage payments and your car payments and your payments towards your Spotify account every month. We get a lot of pushback on our social media sometimes about how expensive funerals are. And if there's one guarantee in life, it's that none of us are making it out. And it's important
Yep.
to take the reins and be responsible and get your wishes in place and get them funded so that they don't fall back on someone else.
I always tell people, you have a start. Two things are guaranteed. You have a start time, you have an end time. Is what you're going to do in between to prepare for that ending.
Yep.
Are you going to leave a legacy? Or, are you going to prepare a legacy for your loved ones after you have passed? So, you're definitely going to start life. You're going to end life. But what are you going to do in between for that legacy for the next generation?
I heard a quote a couple weeks ago, and it was, you die twice. The first time is when you actually die, and the second time is when someone ever speaks your name for the last time ever.
I say that in my I actually say something along that lines on my closing when I close at like cemeteries and stuff like that. I let them know that, hey, no one truly dies until you stop telling their stories, and that story is in the obituary.
Mm-hmm.
Once you stop telling that story of their life, that's when they truly die.
Yep.
They're always here in the spirit. Your spirit will live on forever.
That is so true.
Yep.
It when the memory is gone, or that's when things, that's when a person's truly gone. And it's like, you try to sit there and you say that, you never are going to be without someone, but life continues. And that's why it's so important to actually be able to have something, uh, whether it be going to the graveside to be able to remember that person, or having, um, an urn or something. There's just got to be something. A person just can't be here and then just be gone. I think that's where we start getting the complicated grief, and that's a whole different conversation. But that's why it's so important to have some type of celebration, some type of remembrance, and then that way you have those keepsakes. That's why they fight over the memorial folders, because they have something tangible to take away.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Go ahead, Catherine. Let's jump in. You get the fun questions.
Okay, so I'm not on TikTok. I got banned from TikTok.
What? You got banned?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I have no idea. My sister one day texted me and said, "Why aren't you on TikTok anymore?" And my account was disabled. So I've made no attempt to get back on, but I've seen a lot of videos on our Facebook feed pop up. And if I could name names, I don't know that I would want to put them out there, just because I don't have their consent to do so. But there's some, looks like female-owned, African-American female-owned funeral homes. And I'm seeing their videos pop up. And as they're leaving the church, I don't know if they're staff members or family that are around the casket that are they're kind of in sync. They're doing a dance as they go out. And I think to myself, is this tradition? Is this something that the family has to request? What is this? Talk to me about it.
So typically, if that's the case, they're probably working with the funeral home.
Okay.
Let's say if they're kind of like dancing out, that's probably something that the funeral home offers. That's probably a service that they offer.
And is that the high stepping that you're talking about? That you were talking
That's
about
part
there?
of it. That's part of it. And we do offer those type of things. Normally, in the rural area where my father's firm is, you won't see that too often, unless the family's seen it in the city. If they seen it in the city, they'll request it. But you don't typically get that. You might get a horse and carriage, in the rural area, but you won't get too much of the high stepping and the dancing and things of that nature. You probably get that towards the city, but yeah, that's part of. I mean, that's just part of the funeral.
Okay.
So when you made the distinction, like toward your dad's side, which is more rural, and I guess your mother's firm's more toward the city, more urban environment.
Mhm.
Now, so it's not every funeral. So there's not always, the guy shouldering the casket. There's not always a crowning ceremony or things like that. Those would be in addition if requested by the family. That's just not.
Yes.
It's not the like a funeral. It's not the norm.
It's not every funeral. It's whatever the
Okay.
family, for now some funeral homes I do know in the Metro Atlanta area that do the high stepping, or they have someone come down and sing during the acknowledgments of everything. They typically have someone do that, like they sing and things of that nature. They have that every service, but for the most part, it's whatever the family wants. What kind of celebration they want for their loved one, and we just try to offer those services to them. And if they want the high seven top ed, we'll make sure that happens. If they want a traditional service, we're still gonna celebrate their loved one. If they need a musician, we're gonna make sure we get one of our better musicians that's gonna turn up the church or wherever we are at. So we're gonna make sure that's still a celebration at the end of the day when it comes to our services.
So I got to
That's so
ask,
cool.
because anytime there's extras, we get questions about this on Facebook. Do you charge extra for that? Do you charge extra? If a family requests that, do you charge extra?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Most of it is.
I'm not going to ask
everything.
you how much.
No. I know you've seen our videos. I know the first I guess feedback that was negative that we had was from one of our videos about our gowns, and we would just I was just telling them like, hey, the gown, I think we said the gown was $275, but the gown that we offer actually comes from a funeral director who does the gowns, and his charge is $225. So we really don't make anything on it. Mm-hmm. We're really just giving that to the family because it's a nice gown that we offer. We just want to give the family options. And the same with the different things as far as the horse and carriage or the high stepping things of that nature. Some of those, you obviously have to charge for, but it's more like sometimes it might be a cash advance, or it might just be in a professional service fee and things of that nature. So that's just something that, we still try to offer for the families, but it's definitely an extra charge to do that because, people have to be paid for those type of things.
Absolutely.
Do you receive a lot of pushback from your families when they say, "Oh, we want this, that, the third, and I want the six, I want the 6 white horses, the carriage," and then when you say, "Well, here's the cost that's associated with that," do you see a lot of pushback from the families when it comes to pricing?
Not as much when it comes to pricing. Mainly, it's crazy to say that we really don't, because they kind of already know. I mean, most of them come like in the rural area, they've watched my videos. So when they come to the funeral home, they kind of already know a base price of certain, those certain things. Or like I try to educate them during the arrangement conference, like, hey, this is going to be this, this is going to be this price. And I treat it kind of like as if I'm a waitress, or I'm a waiter, I'm a server. I kind of go down the list and break it down to them, like, hey, this is this is that, and this is why this is that. So, I mean,
Catherine, how do I make arrangements?
Yep.
Like your server. Yeah, like your server. I think that's the best way to do it, so they understand, and you make it so it's easy to understand for someone who's not a funeral service or has never really conducted arrangements for their loved one before.
Yeah. Do you see that? So you said that they have an idea of what so do you discuss pricing in your videos?
And some of them I have
Really?
definitely
Okay.
our packages and things of that nature. And a lot of I've started doing that because I noticed that a lot of funeral homes on their website, they typically have their packages on there. They typically have it where you can go and look at their packages. I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna let them know what our package is. And then also, people come in, the first thing I'll do is I hand them, like, kind of like they hand you the menus at the restaurant.
Here you
and
go.
I was like, hey, let me know if you have any questions. This is our package, kind of like this is a special of the day, so they know, okay, this is what this entails with this package. And then if you want to go outside the package, this is the other price. So just things like that. And then the cash advance items, they ask me, if they want a cat panel, I let them know, how much a cat panel is and what the cat panel is used for to memorialize your loved one. So things like that.
Okay.
Interesting. We don't have any pricing on our website right now. At the new location, when we move to our new funeral home, we're going to be putting all of our casket and vault prices up. But I'm not going to put my GPL just because people do think sometimes they're comparing apples to apples, and they're not, and they get confused. And so until it becomes absolutely necessary that we put the GPO on the website, I'm not going to. But casket and vault price list, I'm going to be very excited to get those up there. I can't wait.
We don't have,
especially if you're shopping local in Red Lion.
Yeah, we don't typically have either one of those on our website either. We just like I said, I just noticed people do that. Yeah. So I just let them be aware of what, kind of the ballpark. But everybody's shopping now. And I think that's kind of just the evolution of funeral service. A lot of it is the relationships. They're either going to go off the relationships, proximity, or reputation. And if they hear about your funeral home, they'll call you and see, okay, what's your pricing and things of that nature, and compare it to another funeral home. And we just hope that, regardless of price, you come to us for our service. And our motto is service is as good as its promise. And we just promise, our promise is that the service is going to be what you expect and more.
Sure.
Whether that's what your loved one looks, what your loved one looks like, or just what I'm gonna do as the funeral director, because I'm big in our brand at Bernard's. We're it's family funeral care, so you become part of my family when you use my family to service yours. So
I love that.
That is cool. I'm gonna have to tagline some of that, Brelan. I'm gonna copyright that bad boy.
Look, it's already copyrighted. I'm just like.
So Caitlin asked, she said, you guys have a rental spray floral arrangement?
Yes. So those are popular for our service cremations. And we typically do ceremonial caskets. We show the metal caskets that are, you can, it's after we do cremation afterwards, after the service. And we show them the metal caskets, and as well as the wooden caskets. And we use the rental flower for that. And
your ceremonial caskets would be your rental caskets. Like we have a rental. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And so
you have steel shells.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I want to ask you all, do you all use floral sprays or like a floral arrangement on top of your casket? Like we call it the family flower sometimes.
Yeah,
do y'all put that in the casket spray?
Casket spray.
So what about for your rental flowers?
Most families will purchase an actual arrangement, and then what they'll do is they'll take the spray home with them and maybe pull flowers out and just make separate arrangements throughout their home. We've had families just say, send them to the crematory with mom, or we're not going to do anything with them. And then they leave them with me and they end up coming back to my house.
That's why I offer that. I ask them that, like in the arrangement conference sometimes, like, hey, when they do a ceremonial casket or they're doing a service cremation, I'm like, hey, what are you going to use these flowers for after the service? And most of the times they're going to throw it, most of the time they might throw it away or whatnot. So it's like, go with the rental flower, which is cost sufficient for them.
Are they like silk flowers, and do you have different arrangements, or just one single?
Well, they're different arrangements. And then they're like red. We have like different colors. So we have red, blue, pink, and I believe we used to have a yellow one as well. They're pretty.
Actually a really good idea.
It's a great idea. I'm sitting here thinking myself.
Well, Dakota, if you're watching, we're going to get into flower arranging this week.
Epic video.
Yes, I love that. Do they get dusty? I know that's a weird question.
They got spray.
Like the keyboard
You-
spray?
yeah, you can dust off the
Okay.
fake plants.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. I just learned something new.
There was a comment, and Ryan, let me see if I can find it real quick. He posted here in the chat, and it's very true that no consumer could ever really decode a GPL because there's so much information on the GPL that you don't know what you need for the service that you're looking for, and next thing you know, you're pricing things out, and you see that it's like, let's say just for numbers, $30,000, when in reality you don't need half the things that you're pricing out. And I think it's overwhelming to the family, and that's why it's so important to make that phone call, have that conversation, to really know what you need and what the price is going to look like.
Definitely have to over communicate all the information to the family. Make sure they know everything. You know that they're looking for their loved one's service. I mean, I talked to Kaylin about this, about just doing a checklist for your families. Making sure that they when you do the transfer, hand them one so they know exactly what they're getting into.
Yep.
You want to make sure that they know exactly what they're getting to when they come in for the arrangements or later on during the week.
Yes.
No
We did
surprise.
that this morning when we were out on our call. We went out. I think we were probably out at the residence around 1:30 this morning, and go over my first call sheet. And I just said, and here's what, to expect when you come in to meet with us. And we encourage them to start going through pictures, of course, bring an obituary picture. If you have time to get clothing together, but just start thinking about, stuff that you want in the obituary. And by the way, we're going to go over a lot of biographical information, because it's amazing how many families aren't aware of, a husband might come in and they'll say, well, I have no idea what my wife's mother's maiden name was.
Yes.
We need all that information for the death certificate. So leaving them with something, it's very helpful to the family.
Most definitely. What how long does your arrangements conference usually last?
I usually leave about 90 minutes.
Okay, hour 30.
Yeah. Just some buffer time. That way, if, I don't know, people like to talk, and we're there to listen. They're there, just lean on us. And that's what I always tell them. That's what I said to the family this morning. It sounds like you haven't really gone through something like this before. And that's what we're here for. You lean on us. You depend on us during this time. We'll be by your side. I think people are afraid they're just going to be thrown to the wolves. And, what do we do about the death certificate? How do we apply for VA benefits? We take care of all of that. We do all of that. So, and, with the GPL, one thing I've found too is people call into our funeral home, and I always say, I'm not the lowest and I'm certainly not the highest. I'm in the middle. And families will go with us, even though we might be a little higher than the other funeral home they called price-wise, because we actually took the time to explain things on the phone to them and to answer their questions. I've spent 20, 30 minutes on the phone with families, and they'll call us back a few days later after someone passed, and we're going with you because you took time to talk to us.
And that's where, again, just taking the time, not making a family feel rushed. There are other avenues that people could choose to take if they wanted to be quick and fast, and the McDonald's dollar menu version of services. There are other venues for that. But if you want to, sit down and really put something together to memorialize and celebrate your loved one, that's something that takes time. Look how much time goes into planning a wedding.
Yes.
Which is normally a one-day affair. Traditionally, a funeral is a multi-day affair, and people expect that 20 minutes and they're done. And that's not the case. And you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You really do.
Most definitely. And how long do y'all kind of take in between? I wanted to ask this before. how long did you all take? I mean, with the families usually, is it y'all have a service like someone passed away Sunday, you all have a service Saturday, or like it's usually 2 weeks, or how does it usually work, or 2 days, 3 days?
Yeah. Our time frame is not like the Georgia Tennessee timeline. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, okay.
Normally, within, what would you say, Catherine? On occasion there might be a week lapse in between, but I've seen people come in today that, it's Tuesday and they were in town and mom and dad passed away. They'd like to do everything on Thursday to be back on the road on Friday.
What? Okay.
Convenience. They got to get home.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. So you do the preparation work. You got to do like if it's a viewing and stuff, you do the preparation work like that day.
Depending on the time, and I know Catherine's done it, I've done it. If we get a first call right now, by the time we wrap up the show, I may go back tonight or go in very early in the morning and prepare the individual. 9 out of 10 times before the family comes in for arrangements, their loved one is embalmed and prepared.
I don't think a lot of people, that are not in the funeral service know that we do that kind of like we go back to the funeral home late at night to like that's what we do up here with my pops. Like his rule is, and I told Miss Catherine this at the convention, like between 9 and 5, you're seeing families. Like when people are going to walk through your door, so you never know what's going on. After 5, that's when we start the preparation process, the preparation work. So we might get out at 3, 4 in the morning, and I might have to see a family at 9 or 10. But that's just what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do. It's part of the profession.
But we only do it for the money.
Yeah, that's what they like to say.
Don't even get me started. Chris heard me this morning. Chris is like I don't know, he's like my counselor, but I posted a video yesterday of a casket and I was ripped to shreds in that thread about profit and how much we overcharge a family and how much do you pay for that casket? How much did you charge them? Be honest with us. We're vultures. That was a pre-arrangement from back in the 90s. So you tell me how much money you think we made. We're taking a significant loss. But
significant hit, yeah.
We made a commitment to those families when we purchased that funeral home that we would honor all those pre-arrangements, and we stick to our word.
And that's what they don't understand about the pre-needs. Years ago, we're taking that hit, and we don't understand we have an overhead, and then you have
overhead keeps going up.
Yeah, the overhead keeps going up. Costs. If you're renting, I mean, it's not based off of what you're pricing. Then you have to do payroll. I think payroll is the craziest thing. As far as cost for an owner. I see when my parents, are doing that. Late night. Oh, I got to do payroll. And I'll talk to you later, because I mean that's because everybody's trying to get paid. Everybody has their lives and things of that nature, and so that's part of the cost as well. Because people have asked, like, do you have to pay someone to work in the visitation? Yes, we have a staff there. I mean, they do ask this. It's like we have a staff there, right? And that work for us. They have to be compensated for what they do. So I mean, that's part of our services.
Yeah.
Well, that's and again, it's the whole mentality that, we shouldn't be charging for funerals and, they should be free. And, again, but now I know what I came out of school in debt with. I'm sure you guys remember what you guys came out of school in debt with. We had to pay back those student loans. My embalming textbook was $600.
I was like 5.
You know what I mean? And people don't understand. Then you have lab fees. Then once you get out of school, we have to pay to take the national board exams. You got to pay to take your state exams. If you're lucky, your funeral home will pay for your apprenticeship license. If not, you got to pay for your apprenticeship license. You know, these are all fees, and I know in Maryland, where I'm licensed, it's $600 for your mortician's license, and then PA, it's is it
400.
it's 200 for 2 years, right? 400 for 2 years. Yeah.
400. Mhm.
And the license, then you have insurance, liability insurance,
Yes.
and I don't even want to think about the billable hours from there's the bubble again. I don't want to think about the billable hours that, if you have an attorney that you have to call to ask questions for and things like that. Because guess what? Those bills they still send their bills religiously.
Mhm.
We're not here to take anybody through the coals. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some funeral homes, I know of one. I've been to one. I visited one where the professional service fee was $10,000.
Oh,
Just to
wow.
walk through the doors, it was $10,000. And it's Joseph Gawler and Sons Funeral Home in Washington, D.C.
Mm.
Their professional service fee is $10,000. They had a casket in their selection room for $125,000.
And that's why we get, I hate to say it.
But we're the bad guys.
Mhm.
Yeah. No.
My parents are down in Florida, and we were down visiting with them last week, and they were telling us that one of their neighbors had shared with them that they had a traditional funeral service for one of their family members, and before the $12,000 grave opening, the funeral home charges were $60,000.
Okay.
60,000.
Yes.
I'm not gonna. I had a family when I was actually in Nashville. Yeah, it was something like, it wasn't that much, but
Mhm.
it was like 20. It was like 20,000 before the grave, the opening and closing of the grave.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. That's not out of the norm in our area. It really isn't.
Really? Oh, okay, yeah.
No,
And
no.
see, they'll go like down here, down south. They'll go crazy about that.
Yeah. Now, I want to read something. Vince just commented, and he says the craziest upcharge I have seen was posting the obituary in the state paper and local papers. I think it was around 600. So it sounds like the funeral home was charging him additional for assistance with getting the obituary in the paper, but that to me falls under my basic services of funeral director and staff. Now,
Yeah.
Tim, who we had on the
Yes.
show a couple weeks ago from William R. May Funeral Home, he texted me the other day, and he had someone that wanted to post a death notice in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Just guess how much?
$400.
Oh, no, buddy.
$8,000.
Are you
I know.
serious?
I know. I thought I thought his phone broke and something.
Yeah, that's a cash advance. I'm putting that in the cash advance.
$8,000. And I guess they decided to move forward with it. But there's some families that doesn't matter to them. They want to get their loved one's name in the paper. They want that obituary, and costs aren't a factor. And people buy emotionally in funeral service. They really do. The protective caskets. People say, well, who would ever buy a protective casket? I don't know. Talk to a family that just lost a child.
Exactly.
That's your last act of protection for your child. If you can buy a protective casket for them, they're buying emotionally.
And it's mentally, I want to know that my God forbid, but I would want to know my child was protected.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Ryan makes a valid point here. You can have a nice service, clean removal van, well-kept professional, nice facility, etc. If the funeral home never makes money, there isn't another business on the planet that anyone cares about whether if it makes a profit.
Yeah.
Pay the haters no time, energy, and thought, and let them find someone to provide a free funeral. The free funerals are the ones where in 3 to 4 years you see oh man, Brelan, you're down in Georgia. What was it? Tri-state crematory?
Oh yes, up in Rome, Georgia.
Nobles.
Yeah, I think it's
They weren't cremating the bodies.
yeah, North Georgia.
He was burying them on the property,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was like I think the last count was like 40,000
Some crazy.
bodies.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
There's a whole podcast about it,
Oh
Catherine. You'll
my
have to listen
God.
to it.
Wow.
You know, this is the guy that's doing, you know, oh, well, I'll do it for 495. You know, it's
Yeah.
those types of things. The one just in Maryland that I had to deal with a lot of stuff down in Annapolis for before I came back home here to PA. You know, they weren't cremating the individuals. The previous firm I was at, we ended up getting 13 babies, and we had to cremate them, but the families thought they had their babies back.
Mm.
You know, and it was all because of the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
You get what you pay for.
Yep.
You
And
can't go.
sometimes with those firms, you're essentially handing your loved one over to be cared for by someone who isn't licensed in the prep room. And then you walk in for the viewing and you wonder, why do they look like this? Why do they look like that? Where's that smell coming from? It's because there was someone who was put in the position to do professional work that isn't a licensed professional.
And I do want to ask you that question. How do you all go about family members saying, I want to do the hair, or I want to do the makeup, or I want to dress my loved one? That's not in their religion or culture that they do that.
I'm fine with the hair. I'm leery on cosmetics. You know, I kind of relayed to them that, you know, mortuary cosmetics is a little different than, you know, normal cosmetics. You know, if please, they're welcome to be there with me and, you know, give me guidance, but just please let me do that portion.
Especially if they have bruising or discoloration that could, you know, that could just have, that could cause the family to leave with a sour taste in their mouth. You know, they didn't look so good at the funeral home. You know, let us take care of the makeup. We don't want them to come in and see something they really shouldn't see like that, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, it does.
Because it's like when people come into arrangements, and yes, their loved one may be embalmed and prepared, but they'll ask, can we see them? And, you know, I always let them know. I said, right now, I wouldn't recommend it. They may, and I explained, we use a hydrating, moisturizing cream. That's a thick lather that we place on their face, their hands. So just, you know, come back at this time, whether it be in, you know, an hour before. I've had them come back the day before for an hour before the public viewing or visitation. And, you know, at that point, they're dressed, they're cosmetized, they're in their casket. I know that at that point, when I'm ready to receive a family, I have done every single thing within my power to make that person look presentable for that family. You know, I've had that time. I don't ever want to short myself that time and then fail the family, if that makes sense.
Exactly. I agree.
I'm open to families dressing if they wanted, depending on the situation. Never had anyone ask. I have had families ask to do hair, and we will absolutely have them come into the funeral home to do hair.
Now, do you have them sign like a waiver or anything like that?
No, not when it comes to hair. And I've never had anyone ask to do makeup. I've had, you know, a granddaughter asked to come in and paint her grandmother's nails. I did have a situation where I had a family involved in a shrouding, and we did have them sign off on waivers before they went into the prep room. And we specifically stated no photography and no recording. And they did take their phones in, and someone was standing there like this. And we had our staff in there as well. Actually, it was Dakota and one of our other staff members. And someone must have been standing like this, recording and taking pictures, because the pictures ended up on social media. And I was not aware of this until the funeral service, when one of the family members came up to me. and they showed me the pictures. Now, granted, the individual was shrouded, but they were on our prep table. But whenever I'm in the prep room doing any sort of video recording or content, you never see an individual. And I just didn't like that. And we contacted our attorney, and I said, what can I do? What should I do? And of course, that it was a public Facebook page, and he went to their page and he said, well, it's really not as bad as you think it is. You're probably overthinking it, which Chris knows I tend to do. But he said, moving forward, you stand at the prep room door and you say, here's a basket. Your phone goes in the basket. And you sign off on all these waivers. But that was really disappointing that had happened. And so you have to cross your T's and dot your I's. But I think if a family really pushes and they really, really want to get involved in a situation that maybe we've advised them they shouldn't get super involved in, absolutely get your documents signed.
Most definitely.
So
I don't know that you can ever really turn down a family, though.
Well, that was what I was going to ask. So in Pennsylvania, you as the supervisor and as the owner, if a family member came to you and said they wanted to be with you with the embalming procedure,
I don't know that I would. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I don't know. You're putting me on the spot and I don't know the answer. What would you say?
No, there's no right or wrong. I was just curious to your opinion. I would because technically if it's the immediate family and they want, it's like, look, you have every right, but let me explain to you verbally the procedure that you're going to now witness, and then let me know if you want to move forward, because I can imagine that eventually somebody asking that.
I've had people ask me, and now because you brought it up, now everyone's going to ask moving forward.
I tell them, like, you have to be at least a
line item.
I say you have to be a licensed apprentice.
Now, is that required by law in Georgia?
I believe so. Now I have to go check that out, but I believe so. You have to be licensed apprentice or licensed embalm.
Because it does vary by state.
I'm pretty sure it's in Georgia. Yeah, that is the law. Now that I'm thinking about the states, I'm pretty sure that's the law.
Okay.
You cannot, because it's the law. But back to the question before, a lot of people in our community do ask to do makeup, definitely do hair. Some have asked to dress before. And most of the time I just tell them that we handle the dressing, but sometimes we let them do the makeup. Sometimes we let them do it. And sometimes if we see something's off, we will we'll fix it, of course. So okay. we'll go about it that way, But I did have them sign a waiver for the cosmetics. Just to make sure, just because some of them don't have their shots and stuff like that. Just being in the prep room in general.
And you make a valid point with your vaccination. I mean, you need to have your hepatitis B.
The whole series.
Hepatitis B, tetanus. Yeah. I'm not telling you, do you have your shots? I asked, do you have hepatitis or your tetanus shots? And a lot of them say no. So I'm like, well, that's kind of, a requirement, and there has been some that they have, and I still make them sign a waiver to come back there. But mainly it's not. It'll probably be outside in our chapel area where they can do it. They won't be in our prep room.
Right.
Because I know when we used to do, I used to do a lot of Hindu and a lot of Sikh services, and the females would come dress the ladies, the males would come dress the males, and then to especially the ladies saved me numerous times when it came to wrapping a sari, because there's so much pleating and pins, and I don't care how many YouTube videos you watch, you can never figure it out. Mm-hmm. But they would come, they would dress, and it is part of their culture. One of the other things is they would actually want to come after you're done embalming, and they'll do a milk and honey bathing ritual of the deceased. So we would they would rent the preparation room, and because then before we would then dress them again, we would then have to go back and bathe them again, because you can imagine milk and honey is a sticky situation. But there's different cultural aspects to that. That's like in the Jewish culture, you have the Sheva Kadisha that come
Yeah.
out, they care for the decedent and things like that. So I think there's room, maybe not taking them into the prep room, but especially if somebody would want to do something like that at Harkins, I can barely fit in the prep room at my funeral home. So it would be, the decedent on a dressing table, maybe in our chapel.
Yeah. That's what we do. That's what we do. Put them on the dressing table, put them in the chapel area, and let them do what they do. Yeah.
There's a couple comments here. So when we started talking about families witnessing embalmings, Tabitha said that's probably a little much, and that would be
Yes.
so hard to see. And I think, we are there in a professional role, and we know that we need to serve this family, and we have a job we need to do, and we need to take care of that individual in the prep room. And we're able to, for the most part, keep our emotions under control. There are some cases that are very challenging for us. And, but for someone who's grieving, who has never seen an embalming before, I think that would be very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be tough.
It would.
So
I actually had a couple questions too that people sent me
okay.
on Facebook. Someone said, do you shave younger women in the late 40s to 50s? Do you shave their hair? I guess that's the question. And
Like, are you talking about like facial, like if they have like a peach fuzz or?
We do. We shave the I guess they might be. I'm guessing that's what they're asking. I don't know if they're talking about legs or nothing. Yeah, I hope so. But
everybody went there. I know everybody went there because I can see it on your faces.
Yeah, I know what you're going with it. I'm guessing they're talking about facial hair. If they're talking about facial hair, we do it, but sometimes in the rural areas, we've had ladies where that's actually how they had the mustache.
Okay.
They had the peach fuzz, and that was their look.
And if you take it away, you better be able to lay it back down because grandma's going to be mad.
Yes.
I have to tell you the funniest story, Chris. I don't know if you remember this. It was one of the first times you did trade embalming for us, and this is under the previous ownership at Berg.
Oh yeah, I had Dakota come ask you. You were making arrangements.
Yes, and there must have been like a little old lady with facial hair, and Dakota goes, "Hey, Chris wants to know if he should shave the facial hair." And I'm thinking, yeah, like if I have facial hair, I'm coming back and haunting you if you don't shave it.
but you do it and you take it off, and then they come in, and that grandma's had that for like the last 30 years.
This is not grandma.
And that's not grandma no more.
That's not grandma. What's her mustache?
And they're mad.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we shave everyone, unless of course it's a man that has a beard or a mustache, or I've been instructed not to shave. And babies, we would never shave a baby's face.
Yeah, most definitely.
The little peach fuzz.
Yep.
Mr. Leonard Mann says Brelan's father is one of the best embalmers they is.
I told you, a lot of people know him. He traded embalmed for years around Georgia. And, yeah.
So now here's shaving, and this is me going down I don't know if we want to go around this rabbit hole, but what if it's a full couch casket and a lady's wearing a dress? Because I don't. Did you do a lot of full couch caskets, Brelan?
For younger people, yes, we have.
Okay. So what if they are wearing a dress and it's knee length, and they weren't wearing stockings or pantyhose? Would you shave the legs or wax the legs? Because Aretha had like six outfit changes during her wake.
Exactly.
Yeah,
she did. And I'm gonna come back to that question. My great uncle, when he passed away, he had two. He was in Jet magazine for having two, and he had it in his he had a visitation at his house, Donald Trimble. So yeah, y'all have to look that up. But yeah, I would definitely I probably would use like restorative or something, and use that to shave the leg hairs. But I would also had advised the family to get stockings, or I would have just got the stockings because we have extra stuff sometimes that
Okay.
I might put stockings on. But if they were like, okay, she never wore stockings, I would put restorative on her legs, and then probably use that as and then shave her legs.
Well, I have a
Avoid any
question
type of
now
razor burn.
because you said you use full couch caskets, so that means the entire lid is open.
Mm-hmm.
They come with a blanket. So what do you do with the blanket? Do you not cover the individual?
We don't do it until the end. So we don't
Yeah,
do
'cause-
that until we close the casket, and we put it on
Interesting.
like a blanket. Like we roll it up, so it's like if I rolled it all the way up in like a bundle, and then we're gonna place it at the bottom of the casket, and we're gonna
Okay.
roll it all the way to their, I guess their neck area, and then we're gonna tuck it in on the sides like it's like their sleep. But
Chris,
that's at the
what do you do with a full couch casket? Do you keep the individual covered during the viewing time up to like maybe the waist?
The only time I've ever done that's when I helped you out with that service and you told me to do that. Normally we keep the blanket completely off,
yeah, I don't
and
have the
Okay.
then
blanket on.
it's at the end. That way, that's why if you ever the real old school, what would we say, OG funeral directors, like would use the newspaper to crease the pants so that the pants would have the crease so the pants weren't laying flat. The ladies, you would cross their feet at their ankles if they were
Okay.
wearing like a dress and things like that. So
Interesting.
yeah,
I was always taught that you cover up to the waist with the blanket, and I
then
think
why not
Chad
get a
was,
half couch? If you want a full couch, they
Yeah, that's the half
want to
couch.
be
Yeah,
seen.
yeah. Might as well put that foot pan on there.
Yeah, and I don't. It's very rare to see anybody use a foot panel anymore
Yeah,
with a full couch casket.
yeah. So
I'm learning all sorts of stuff tonight. This is great. I love it.
So, what other
Yeah.
questions you got there, buddy?
let me see what she said. And this Miss Phoebe Neary. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right.
Phoebe,
Phoebe. Yeah, Phoebe. Miss Phoebe. Oh, okay. She said, "What do we donate? What items do we donate?" I'm gonna skip that question because I don't really understand it. But the next one, she says, "Do we wash head to toe?" And yes, we
and
do it
everywhere in
as if-
between.
yeah, everywhere in between. Wash like we're washing ourselves, not better.
If you're being embalmed now, we got a question this week about cremation. If someone is going to
Yes.
be cremated, no, we do not wash. And someone said, "Oh, that was really disappointing to hear," but I'm not going to sit there and lie to you.
No,
I don't know any firm that washes someone before direct
a direct
cremation
cremation.
services.
Yeah. At most we clean up the face, and then we close the mouth, do a mouth closure. But that's really it. Make sure the
Even if
eyes are
no
closed.
one's seeing them.
You say even if they're not seeing them,
Mhm.
we still do. We still
Okay.
Now,
do
Breland,
mouth
is
closure.
identification required prior to cremation in Georgia?
Yes.
So you said
Identify.
features prior.
Yes, that features prior.
It's not a
Makes
requirement here in Pennsylvania. There's no identification requirement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I mean
that's why
sometimes
we don't.
you can they can rely on the funeral home to identify them, but it has to be either they identify them or you have a representative, either next of kin or someone down the line of the next of kin to identify the loved one. So
Yep, it all comes back to accountability, and again, hospitals have released the wrong people before, and I may not, if I didn't make the prearrangements, I don't know Mrs. or Mr. So and so from anybody, and I'm taking the hospital's word, and the next thing you know, you've taken the body to crematory, cremated the body, then the hospital's calling you back and saying, "Hey, by the way, Mr. XYZ is still here. Maybe you should come get him." Well, no, I already came and got him.
yeah.
Even going into nursing homes sometimes, Breland, I don't know how it is where you are. Sometimes you get, you get to the nursing home, you're there to pick up so-and-so and transfer them into your care, and they send you into a room and there's 6 beds and you're thinking, which person is it?
Yeah. And they all look, yeah.
Yes.
Check the toe, man.
So I always have a nurse come in with me because I don't want to startle someone and wake them up or start moving someone onto the cot and it's the wrong person.
They wake up. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There's Phoebe. Catherine, are you planning on getting your Maryland license?
Ooh.
Phoebe, yeah. I don't know. I don't think so. I need to be licensed in the state of Pennsylvania for at least 5 years if I want to just go for my Maryland license. And I think I'll be licensed here 5 years next year. Or if I didn't want to wait the 5 years, Chris, I have to do like a 1-year internship in Maryland, right?
To serve an apprenticeship.
And I don't know, Phoebe, we have a lot going on right now. And that's just not.
You got Chad and me. We're good for right now.
Not in the cards. No.
She also asked me about, do we make portraits of the decedent to give to the loved ones? And we do that as a merchandise item.
Yeah, memorial portrait.
Memorial portrait. But we typically don't, at this time, we don't just offer it to the family.
And you see, that goes back to something else that, again, this is something I think about, where you have families that come in and they may come to your firm now for whatever reason. They didn't go to the firm they've used before, which sometimes is a red flag, just putting it out there. But it's like, well, at XYZ Funeral Home, they gave me a candle. They gave me a blanket. What are you going to give me? It's like, what toy are you getting in the Happy Meal? And it's like, well, I hate to break it to you. You paid for that. You just don't realize it because it's factored into the professional service fee.
Oh, yeah.
If you want it, I can get it for you, but here's the cost for it. And I don't think a lot of people understand that a lot of that stuff is built into the professional service fee because, again, that is the only non-declinable charge that can be on your general price list. So if you want to put things in and push stuff in there, and if you're paying $10,000, that building better dag near be worth, $10,000 that I'm coming into. That type of stuff.
Yeah. And we've also had families come to us and say, well, we used XYZ firm before, but they were so much more than what they quoted us over the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And so they get a good price over the phone. And like, this is what the previous owner of our funeral home used to do. Families would call in and they would say, well, what's your cost for cremation? And she would say, it's blah, blah, blah. But then when they would come in, she would add a crematory fee on top of that charge. And everyone's going to operate their business differently. But I just always felt like I want to give families the price. I don't want to play games. I'm not trying to just get you in the door so that I can tack more on once you're sitting in the arrangement room. But yeah, I mean, there's families that say, well, we called, I had one the other week, we called a cremation society and they quoted us one price. But then when we went in, when the individual had died, it was 3 times the amount. Well, that's because you added on a bunch of other stuff and maybe didn't ask the right questions or have a funeral director that was willing to divulge information without being asked. And I think it's important to work with transparent individuals who are going to give you all the information up front.
Most definitely.
Well, one of the biggest things I found from a cremation society standpoint when it came to pricing is that, people will call and ask what your pricing was and you tell them what the pricing is. Well, next thing you know, we would go out to bring the loved one into our care. And when we get there, we find out the loved one is, 600 or 800 pounds. And now you've got additional staff for the transfer. We might have to use a different type of transfer vehicle. And then there are additional fees from the crematory because of the weight of the individual.
Yeah.
And when you call them and tell them, well, you never asked, so I never told you. So it's a did the funeral director not ask the proper questions, or was the family just really not wanting to divulge that information? And now then if you're already contracted, you have a signed contract, and if you're paid, what's your recourse to go back and get that money that's owed to you?
And what is your I guess what would you say to a family that you know what their loved one looks like? Let's say that they are larger size. What would you tell the family in the arrangement conference when it comes to telling them the type of casket they will need, like an oversized casket?
Oh, you need
How
to
do you
be honest.
explain it?
Oh, how do I
How
explain it
you,
to them?
Mhm.
Just because of the size of your loved one, a standard casket is this size. So if they're not going to look comfortable whatsoever.
No
So
problem.
explaining that if you want your loved one to look, not even if you want, you're going to need to purchase this casket,
Mhm.
because you're going to need to go to a 29-inch or whatever it's going to be. And then depending on the casket, then you're going to have to discuss the vault. Because
Mhm.
majority of the times, if you have an oversized casket, you're going to need an oversized vault. And then that's going to lead
Exactly.
you down another primrose path of, now that you have an oversized vault, do you now need to buy a second grave?
Yeah.
And then I've seen them some I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember when certain oversized caskets wouldn't fit in certain coaches.
Yeah. Mm.
Now, Breland, did I see you in one of your videos on your Facebook? You were doing a transfer with your hearse.
Yes.
So do you use your hearse to go out on all transfers?
Yes, we don't have a well at Donald Trimble at my mother's firm. We use a transfer, van.
Okay.
But for my father, we use a hearse. We use the it's a caravan. I guess it's a hearse, but it's a Dodge Caravan hearse that
Okay.
we have there. We have that, and then we also have one we call Big Red. It's a 2001 hearse Cadillac. So
Okay.
we'll use that to go on our transfers. But we do use hearses, and then we close the curtains to let families know that we have a decedent in our care. When
Oh,
our loved ones and people on the road that we have a decedent in our care, we close the curtains.
okay.
Yeah.
So
And we have to go in a suit. I think I told Chris that we
yep.
always wear a suit
Yep.
and tie.
And I wonder. See, I know in Maryland that if we showed up to a nursing home, assisted living facility, hospital with the actual hearse, the actual coach, we would get a phone call back being complained to by like the president of the hospital, like they don't want a coach on their property or something like that.
Mm.
Um, a lot of the vans, because it sounds like, so you use an actual Dodge Caravan, so you use a minivan, it just has the Landau panels on it.
Yes, there's the panels on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like it's not like that, like the coach that were your rollers and you got your wood floor and all that stuff.
No, it's got rollers on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, I still see the dignity in taking and having something showing that it is something, like whether it be a Suburban or whether it be a minivan or something like that, but it having the Landau bars on it
Yeah.
to show that
Most
it
definitely.
is, a funeral vehicle. But you have so many people, and this goes back to what I say all the time, we're a death denying society, we're a death denying culture where we want to hide death, push it out the back door, not let people see anything. And that's why we have so much of the bull crap that we deal with the comments on social media. And all it is because, one, the old school funeral director said we never should talk about what we do. And then secondly, no one wants to discuss death in general.
Mhm.
Let's just put it out the back door. Like I've said it before, you can't find the morgue at a hospital. What do you look for? The dumpsters. You'll
Yep.
find the morgue.
Yep.
I agree. We try to not talk about death, but then that's something that's inevitable. And I know a lot of people nowadays, like people my age, like when their parents say, hey, when my funeral comes, this and the third, I want this, they're like, don't talk about this, don't talk about this. But it's like those are conversations you want to have while they're living, because it's even worse when you come into the funeral home and you're very emotional and you're like, I can't do this. You have to come, you're already uncomfortable coming to a funeral home. And now you have to make these arrangements in a couple of days because mom wanted a funeral on Saturday.
Yep.
And you just came in on Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? You want to use insurance or you want to do this, that, and the third to pay for the financially for the services, but you didn't do the proper planning before. And it's like, we just want to help you. We just want to make sure that you have those uncomfortable conversations before, so it's easier when that time comes. You're already prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody knows your wishes. Everything's written down. I had a gentleman come in and wanted to review his pre-need, with us since Catherine and bought the funeral home. And one of the things I really admired about this is it was down to literally the details of the music he wanted played. He had a list, and he said he had to send an updated list of pallbearers because the ones that were on the original list had passed away already. So he needed to update the list. But it's down to the yellow boutonnieres for everybody, things like that. It is just the details, and then that no one else has to worry because it's all taken care of.
Most definitely. And Catherine, I want to go back to your question earlier. So my father wanted me to say that we do a mini prep for all of our decedents.
Okay.
We do a mini prep for them. So we do, kind of head to toe, kind of do a washing and everything.
Okay.
Yep. Let me see if I got another question. Do y'all have a basic package as well? Like, what would be your basic package price?
I don't do packages.
You don't do packages? Okay.
We're moving away from packages as well.
Okay.
Because
so y'all have. Go ahead.
It's all a la carte.
A la carte, yeah.
And that's when we go back to how, like we were talking about earlier, like how you said you feel like as if you were a server or a waiter. My thing is if you do packages, if somebody wanted to take, really, I don't need that. I don't need that in the package. They now lose the package. Now you got to go, and it's a different price versus, all right, well, that's fine. If you don't need it, you don't pay for it. You're only going to pay for exactly what you need. We're going to go down the GPL. We're going to start at the professional service fee. We're going to work our way down. I'm going to put a little check mark next to what you might need for your service, or if you want to add to the service, we'll put a check mark. And at the end, you're going to know before we're done, you're going to know exactly to the penny what's going to be owed. Because we get some folks where it's like, well, and it's strange where we're like, well, I don't want to register book. I'll bring my own. I'll bring in a marble composition notebook. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, that's fine. Well, if you don't want it now, you lose the package price. Mm-hmm. Well, I find it's just okay. Well, you don't want the book. That's fine. You don't have a book.
No.
But trust me, in my little town, you don't have a book, I'm going to get yelled at.
Yeah. No, same here.
The people in the community are going to be like, "Where's the book?" Yeah. Well, the family didn't want a book. Well, why didn't they get a book? Ask the family.
Yeah. Or that's the same when they get a flower. They get their own flower, and sometimes the flower, the family flower does not, look the part. That casket spray, it doesn't look the part, and they, because we're like, hey, they got their own flower. They chose to do their own. So
now, do you do the flowers yourself?
Not myself.
Okay.
Definitely want to branch out and do some things as far as like maybe a floral shop and stuff like that. But right now, no, we have a vendor we use for the flowers.
Okay.
They look pretty nice. The people that we used them for. My mother's used them for almost 40 years, not 40 years. Yep.
So before, it looks like we're getting right here at 8:00. You got any questions or anything, Brelan, that you wanted to ask me and Catherine or anything like that before we jump off?
Yes. What can y'all kind of give me like a kind of a small rundown of your stories in the funeral service? Did y'all have any family in funeral service?
I'm a first generation funeral director.
Okay. And was it your first profession, or because I know you went to school in 2020?
I graduated in 2020. Yep.
Mhm.
But nope, I was a
Okay.
repo man before I became a funeral director.
Okay.
That's how I met my wife.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that
And
makes
no,
sense.
Lessons.
I was not repoing her car. She worked for the repo company. Well, we
Oh.
actually met in retail and so forth.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
I did not have any family in the funeral business. I was in sales for 12 years before and always wanted to be a funeral director, but working for family, I just could never bring myself to leave the family business. And when it was sold, I said, this is my get out of jail free card, and I'm chasing my dreams. And I wish, like I said earlier, I wish I would have done it when I was your age. So you're just keep pushing forward and doing what you're doing. You're going to do great things. But life goes by fast. And before you know it, you're going to be 39, 40 years old, thinking, where did the time go?
Right.
Yeah.
but I think I like to think of funeral service like playing golf. Like you don't really hit your prime until your later years. I feel like in funeral service, a lot of people like 40 is young. I feel like in funeral service. I mean, I graduated with a guy. I'm gonna shout him out, Mr. Woody Jones. He graduated with us. He was 67.
That's great.
He always wanted to be a funeral director, and he
It's
just
a
never.
huge second career. It
Yeah.
really is.
It is, and it's never too late. I always tell people it's never too late to become one. But you have to be. I feel like you should be doing it for the right reasons, but it's never too late.
That's
I
key.
have a friend, Mark, and I don't know if he's watching this, but we met on Facebook through our Wagner, Alfner, and Berg page. And he ended up going to school. He's at PIMS right now. And Mark, don't hunt me down when I say this, but I believe he told me he's 71 years old. And he is going to be an amazing funeral director. He came up to visit us at our location probably about 2 months ago, and he's coming back up May 20th. So Chris, you'll have to stop up and meet him.
Was that I think I was going to try and get up, but I couldn't get up that day.
Yes.
Was that
yes.
okay? There was a Mark in here, but I don't know if that's that Mark Larkin.
No, Mark I think it's Biolo, Biolo.
Yes, I saw some. There's a comment in there from him earlier today.
Great. He's awesome.
The boss
Max
is here.
Yep. Max wants to come in and say hi. I've been getting texts from Nate. He said,
Max.
Say hi to Chris.
How far are the 2 locations or 3 locations? I guess now, right?
Well,
What's it gonna be
when we move to our new location that we're building, we're going to shut down our current location in Red Lion. We lease that building right now, but then Harkins is 35 minutes south of where we are. So we'll just have 2 locations, but they're 2 separate funeral homes.
They're literally straight shots.
Yeah.
Well, now we'll have to go down and make the left on to 74, but it's only a straight shot.
Yeah.
I was going to wear those pajamas tonight.
Can you say hi to Brelan?
Hi.
What's going on, man?
Hi.
Hi, buddy. What you eating?
Do you tell Brelan, or can you tell Brelan what we do at the funeral home?
Yeah.
What do we do?
Okay.
No.
We have friends.
We help friends.
Yeah.
Do you know Brelan helps his friends too? He has a funeral home that he works for. He works for his mommy and daddy.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this was great. I'm so glad we got to do this tonight.
I am too.
So that's one thing I wanted to ask you. Now, are you a member of MDA?
NFDA?
No, NFMDA.
I
National
am.
Mortician Association.
I'm not right now. I plan on, becoming a member though.
When
My
you
mother
join,
is-
me and Catherine are going to be your guests at the convention, because I think that would be awesome to check out.
Okay. Most if I know my mother is, and I went last year, but I went on a scholarship. Caitlin, I actually applied for everything imaginable, and got lucky. I didn't even pay for school.
Wow.
I didn't
I
pay for
remember you
Gupton.
telling me that.
Yeah, I didn't pay for Gupton at
amazing.
all. Everything was paid
Scholarship.
for because I did this funeral service foundation scholarships. I did like 100 of them.
And you know what?
That's great.
The sad part, and we won't go too much longer, but a lot of people don't realize there are so many um, scholarships that are out there, whether it be, NFDA, whether it be NFDMA, whether it be the Funeral Service Foundation, that no one applies to these, and they have all this money. Just apply. You're probably going to get awarded something, and it goes directly to your school, and it comes off your bill. If it's there, apply for it. Put your name in the hat. Go for it. That's how you learn. That's how you can continue to grow.
Most definitely. Yes, sir. I have 2 more questions. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The first one is, where do you all see your locations going in the next 10 years? Like, what do you want to be known for the next 10 years for both of your for your locations?
I want to be known as the funeral home that goes out of the way for families. And we've had families call us with special requests, and they'll say, have you ever done this before? Have you ever done that before? Can you do this? And it's never no from me. It's always, let me see what I can do. And
Most definitely.
one big example is green burial. I got a call from someone probably almost about 2 years ago, and they wanted to know if we did green burial. I knew nothing about green burial, but we figured it out. We contacted our attorney and we made it happen, and we buried the person on their private property. So I don't want to be the black and white funeral home. I want to be the funeral home that's kind of in the middle and is going to do the unique funerals, and just go out of our way to help a family honor their loved one.
Have you heard of Cremation?
I have.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it though.
It's like them turning the seeding into soil and
Natural
Yes.
organic
planting.
production.
Yeah. And so, like, I wonder, would you offer that as well?
I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have the facility to be able to offer
Yeah.
it.
And
Yeah.
they only have it in certain states. I think they're coming to Georgia soon, but yeah.
Like
Now, aquamation?
like an Amazon warehouse to do natural organic reduction.
Yeah.
But yeah, alkaline hydrolysis, aquamation. Yeah, Catherine
Yeah.
and I, and we've talked about that before.
Okay.
But again, the problem is there's I don't know if there's current legislation. I don't follow the PA.
There is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's legalized, and it's on the books in Maryland.
Okay.
So I mean, for both natural organic reduction and alkaline hydrolysis. So there's the industry is changing, and if we as funeral practitioners do not learn and grow and be willing to change, we are going to die.
Yeah.
It is our job to be able to educate the public, to explain the value, the purpose, and the benefit of the funeral rites and rituals. And when we short our communities by not educating, that's why there was the race to the bottom when it came to cremation. And now what is everyone trying to do? They're trying to crawl back up.
Yeah.
But we already went to the bottom. We said this is acceptable. This is the new standard. When the standard used to be here, but then we said it's okay to be here. We've taken the standard from here to here. And it's our job as practitioners to educate the public, not to hide, not to say what we do should be done in the shadows. And that's why we're here, because there is a value to what we provide, and I'm damn proud of it.
Yep.
And what would you say for your location?
Whatever Catherine tells me to do.
Well, he's not allowed to leave, so I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and honestly, I just want to be known as, like, literally, I want to be the friendly neighborhood funeral director.
I like that.
That's what I want to be. It's when someone passes away, I want them to think of Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to be, a gimmick or something like that. I just want people to know that we're there. Mm-hmm. I'm here to serve. I don't know if you had the opportunity, but when you went to school, but probably not. But I remember going to school and Mr. Van Beck being one of my teachers, Todd Van Beck.
Yeah.
And I serving, like learning under him was one of the best things I've ever encountered in my life. And he would always, no matter what it was, whether it be an email, a text message, and he would always, he always ended with continually at your service.
Mm.
He would sign TVB. And we are always at the community service, where whether it be 9 o'clock at night, whether it be 10 o'clock in the morning, whether it be 2:30 in the morning, we're there. We our lives, everything else stops, and we go.
Yeah.
We don't think twice. We just do it. And that's why it's so important that we continue to educate and we continue to talk about things. So that's what I want to be known as. That's what I want our firm to be known as. We are here for our community and beyond. We just went and did that big funeral down in Eastern Baltimore County, which is a completely different state, but they called on me. We went, we brought the lady into our care, we took care of her, and it was an amazing service. So that's where I want to see us go. And, I want to see our call volume go up. Everybody wants more calls.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was saying.
I want to tag on to what Chris said, because I think, I say the same thing and people look at me like I'm crazy. People are going to die.
Yeah,
we just want them to choose us. We want to stand out. We want them to choose us. We are not looking for bad things to happen to people by any means when we say that. We want them to choose us, though.
I say it all the time. I say, I don't ever wish for someone to die.
Mm-hmm.
But when they do, call Chris.
We want to be top of mind.
Yes.
Definitely. And then I guess I'll answer the questions I asked it. For 10 years from now, I want to retire my parents. That'll be my thing. Retire my parents. And yes, I would love the call volume to go up, but I would like people to see me as kind of like you said, the friendly neighborhood funeral director. Like I would just want them to say like, okay, Brelan's my undertaker, but he's also part of the family. I mean, I think over this past year in my community, I've actually gone to probably, I want to say 10, and the family's probably going to be like jealous, but I've been to like 10 fish fries from different families that have invited me to their family events.
That's great.
And so I go out with the families. I've gone to birthday parties. I do my own aftercare stuff too. Like I send messages to families and things of that nature, just because I want them to know that their family's my family. And then, like I said, over the next 10 years, retire my parents and just continue to grow the funeral home. I would love to be, the call volume, but I want them to come to me for whatever, whether it's a headstone, whether it's pre-need, or, eventually maybe even getting a crematory and cemetery. But I want them to call me when that time comes.
Well, your community is very fortunate to have you.
Very much.
Appreciate you all.
So what we'll have to do is we'll have to get Dad on.
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be the hard one. I mean, I'm trying to get him to do videos.
He's
my
doing
brother,
some good videos.
But those are pulling teeth. I mean, pulling teeth. And he, like I said, he is a genius when it comes to the prep room. And it's like that's one thing I want to keep up, because that's something that, I don't take lightly, because a lot of families really, that's why they come to us. I mean, we do a lot of ship outs too. I mean, a lot, because people know what he does. They know the kind of work he does. So
your reputation in this industry is made. What does President Spann say? Your reputation in the funeral industry is made and broken in the prep room.
In the prep room. Yep, he just said, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, Brelan, I appreciate you for taking the time and sitting down with us tonight. It was definitely a blast. I really had a good time and had an enjoyable conversation with you.
Can we do one more question? I promise this is the last one. I want y'all both to just kind of say something that for a younger person like me in funeral service, what what advice would you give to someone, maybe 20 to 25 ish that's getting into funeral service? Either getting their license or has their license, just a young funeral director.
If you're getting your license, this is the best decision that you could possibly ever make. And if you are licensed and just starting like someone like yourself, remember you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you constantly have to take care of yourself. Recognize burnout, recognize when you're getting tired and when you need to take a break. Because you don't want to go Britney Spears and chop up all of your hair.
Anyway, no, I agree with everything that Chris said, but I'll just say this. When you do become an owner, when you get your parents to retire and you take over, never ask someone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Most definitely.
Yes.
Yep. I think that's so important. And, you getting in the business and learning things early on, that's the best thing you could have done.
Be a servant leader, my friend.
Yep.
Be a servant leader. Lead by example. And I mean, Katharine hit the nail on the head. That's the way you're going to build your team, your family, is by leading by example and not ask of them to do something you wouldn't do. So.
And anything you ever need, any questions you have, anything that we can do for you, don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely
and everybody that follows, make sure that you jump over to Brelan on his Facebook, which is, what is it, Brelan? Bernard's family.
Oh yeah, Bernard's Family Funeral Care.
Yep. And give him a like, give him a follow. Brelan does a lot of social media videos, just like Katharine, like myself. And then you'll love the Taco Tuesdays when he actually does them.
I know, right? This is the first week I haven't done one, but I think this is fitting.
There you go. This is your new taco. Well, this is your Taco Tuesday for today. Yep. All right. And then we are back next month, and we have another Georgia funeral director that'll be joining us. We'll have Mr. Carlton May.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he is actually an adjunct professor at your brother's school. No, yeah, Gupton Jones.
No, he's at Gupton Jones. My brother,
Gupton Jones. Your brother's at CCMS.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking forward to that, and that'll be another great conversation. And then June we have Ruth Ann Distel that'll be joining us. So we've got quite a few lined up, and then I think Katharine's working on July.
I am. Nothing confirmed yet.
Nothing confirmed yet.
No.
So we'll figure that stuff out, and then what we'll do is some people are asking us to post your Facebook information, so we'll share Brelan's page, or the funeral homes page, from the As the Hearse Turns page. So make sure you guys can go there, like it, and he's tagged in a lot of the recent posts for this show as well. So again, thank you all for everything. It's been a wonderful evening, and my dog won't start barking here. He's just being a pain. So we'll go ahead and we'll send it on out. You guys just want to hang tight for a second.